Hi everyone, quick video that I wanted to highlight the importance of this question. Who decides this? An alternative version is just something like, whose decision is this? And this question, oh my goodness, I can't tell you the number of arguments that I witness in my life, both professionally and personally, which could be, in some cases, immediately resolved or reoriented if they were able to kind of re-anchor themselves back to this question of kind of like, who's making the decision here? I see this sometimes with feedback, as I have done some other videos on, where you have some ideas to share, and there could be a group, you've done a presentation, and people are now giving you lots of ideas. You may agree with those ideas, you might not agree with those ideas, right? But as long as it's clear to you and to your audience, whose decision this is, fundamentally, if it's a project you're working on, it's in your role and you've got the authority, and you're the one who is deciding kind of the steps to take on this particular outcome, it's yours to own. As long as, this group here is clear that it's your decision, then it typically works out okay. Where it gets kind of funky is when you end up in kind of just like these loose group discussions. I shouldn't even say it's like group. It can happen with just two people, where you end up in a discussion and there are differences of opinion about which path to take. Someone says, I think A, and the next person says, no, not A, right? And then people kind of, throw in to support a given position, A's versus B's versus someone else says, well, I just think we need to kind of take a step back from all of this and kind of consider the bigger picture here. This is a big picture person. And that's fine. So, of course, all of this is fine if, the idea is to have kind of a brainstorm. A debate or an argument is fine if you want a debate or argument. No issue there, right? These can all serve in different ways. Even if they don't serve, sometimes they just kind of are what happens. And there's more going on here, and so that's fine. My point is just that in this kind of fog or the maze of what's going on in these kinds of conversations, often just asking this question, who decides this, or whose decision is this, can really, really make a difference. Sometimes even just reminding the group, right? Like, hey, this happens like in Holacracy 1, we had this policy around defining strategies for the circle. And there was a specific process that circle leads / lead links had to use in order to define a strategy for a given circle. So it was a group process. People came together. We did this whole big thing. Several people were involved. All circle members were invited. We're sharing stickies. Sometimes there's like a debate energy. There's like a step for kind of data sharing and whatever. It's appropriately a mix of kind of structure and looseness, right? In order to kind of really generate data and brainstorming, you have a certain amount of looseness. Though what I found, especially when I facilitated these, what was extremely helpful for everyone in the group would be to remind everyone that this was the circle leads decision on what to propose as a strategy. Circle members could potentially object to that proposal, but the proposal itself was for the circle lead to make, which means all of the kind of the conversation that was happening here and debating of ideas and counter ideas and plus oneing and all that was great to have. Great to have. And in some ways liberated by the fact that people knew that they weren't going to be the ones that had to make the decision. They were all in service of this particular decision maker. And quickly, why does that really matter? Well, because when you know it's this person's decision, it allows this whole conversation, and if someone's facilitating a conversation like this, to orient back to that individual. This is going to be a bad version of like a compass. To orient back. Like, is this helping you make your decision, right? Is this kind of conversation, this debate, the dynamics of the interaction, is this helping you? That's the key. It really helps you avoid a lot of arguments and debates when they're not helpful, but it is an extremely helpful tool to kind of get it out of them should they occur. Hope that was helpful. Talk to you next time.